Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your week has just been absolutely outstanding and you are ready to go on this lovely and amazing Friday. We made it through another very busy week, but we're not done yet. We're waiting around to see what's going on with this Trump-Putin summit. And here is what the scene looks like out on the stage. And there are some folks who are wandering around here from time to time who will come out and make their appearance, but it's pretty quiet right there. We also, of course, have the 2x2 panel here of everybody who is out and talking about this. And you can see right now, it's just kind of a bunch of replays from earlier today. So we'll talk about all of it. And as soon as something happens here, we'll switch gears and get right back to that. But I do have a little bit of a preview. So we got some clips from him taking off and landing and a lot of the reaction and the handshake and the B-52 bombers or B-2 bombers, whatever they were. Awesome stuff happening that we'll talk about. Then we also got some other things that happened today, which were pretty good things. We had another major ruling from the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, the DC Circuit. And this is good news because this was brought against the Trump administration by another employee union group. And they sued. They said, you can't fire us. Are you out of your mind? And of course, the Court of Appeals is responding to a lower level judge that said Trump's power is evaporated. Now that power has been restored. And so we'll talk about all of that. And then we got an update on this mayor right here. You may not know this woman, but you may get to know her a little bit better soon. Her name is LaToya Cantrell, and she is the New Orleans mayor out in New Orleans. And unfortunately for her, she's been busted, man. You got a bunch of different indictments, one indictment with a bunch of different counts here, including conspiracy and some pretty serious other ones like fraud and all sorts of other things. So we'll go through it. She's busted. This has been going on for quite some time, and we'll see what the latest is with her. As you can see, indictment just came down today, and we had the FBI special agent called Bradley testifying at the proceeding. So some good stuff that we'll get to today, my friends. And of course, we'll see what's going on over here. So any audio? All quiet out there. But we'll keep our eye on it. Now, obviously, they're there. So I got a couple of clips here for us. Here is what it looked like when Air Force One arrived in Alaska. Nice. Just pulling in. Now, I think it circled back or something. But that's how it started. So the plane lands. Putin's plane lands. Here's plane number 2. So Putin comes rolling in. The Putin has landed, and we see that we had this epic walk. These two world leaders walking down conjoined red carpets to a handshake for all ages. So it reminds me of the imagery that we saw when Trump went over to North Korea and kind of stepped across the line and just walked right across the demilitarized zone. How insane that was. And this has a lot of the same vibes to it. Now, you heard the sounds of those beautiful bombers flying over. And I think I always say B-52s, but I think that was like a 70s band or something. But here is what it looked like, courtesy of Dan Scavino in full audio. Let's listen to this one. Right, so that's what Putin stopped and paused and looked around. He went back and he's like, whoa, okay, that was pretty cool. And yeah, so, question, of course, Putin, I don't know what Trump said to him right there. He probably said like, oh yeah, do you have any of those? Do you have some of those there, Pootie? Well, we're working on it. We'd like to come have those if we can have them. Looks pretty good to us. All right, so I don't know what exactly was going on. I don't know if they have those bombers or what, but that is how the scene went underway. And it turned into basically a 3-on-3 meeting. And I had some other clips, which are mostly old at this point. But here is what it looked like inside the room. All right, so it was a 3-on-3 meeting, and it was an interesting scene because they weren't around a table or anything. I mean, it's kind of like some bros sitting around a campfire. You know, the only thing they're missing is a campfire and some s'mores. So here is what it looks like.
Needs to be set. It's easy to see the levers and the pressures on Russia, but what's the incentive for Ukraine? What concessions could be made?
We're getting a look now, Will, at these, and Brett, back to you as we look at this shot and we get ready to bring Dana in just a moment.
Listen in. Needs to be set.
Thrown out. And you can see Putin, look at his face over there. He's listening to our press. He's like, these people are insane. They're all screaming at me. War criminal. He's like, I think I just got spit in the face. What was that? Did they just hawk a loogie on me? Was that Caitlin Collins hawking a loogie on me, says Putin? It's ridiculous, disgusting. He's looking at him like, get out of here, okay? And so I think what I read on some headlines is they had or I saw maybe on a Chiron, is they're saying that Putin was saying, let it go, okay? Let it go. They were asking him, how can Trump trust you, blah, blah, blah. And like that right there, he's going, let it go. Just let it go, morons. So we'll see what comes down on that, but that's a little bit of the inside scoop there before the cameras got thrown out of the room. Here was more from Carly Bonnie with a close-up, right, of Pootie. What's he doing?
Press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, press. Let's go.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you.
I don't know what he was screaming at. Maybe Caitlin Collins. I don't know. But Putin does not look amused. And who knows what was ultimately going down. But the White House has the scene set up with the most important words in this entire event, which is pursuing peace. Standing right in front of it, front and center, an iconic photo again between two very powerful, very influential leaders who hopefully can bring an end to this conflict for good so people stop dying. Now, we also saw this from President Trump. There's a lot of peace in the air, okay? We want to see some peace. But there are some environments, there are some battles where we do not want peace. We do not want a ceasefire. And one of those battlegrounds is when it comes to criminal charges for the Clintons.
In fact, did you see that Hillary Clinton yesterday said that if you got this deal done and not capitulate to Putin, that she would nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize?
If President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, that was very nice. I may have to start liking her again.
In fact, did you see that Hillary Clinton yesterday said that if you got this...
No, Mr. President, don't do it. No peace. Be like that alien in Independence Day, okay? No peace. Peace, no peace. That guy. Anyways, we are going to keep our eye on this. So this is the live scene right now. We have a lot more activity here. Let's see if anything is going to be happening soon. But as it stands right now, looks like the room's filling in, maybe doing some mic checks. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this out. We're going to do a little picture-in-picture on this thing. We'll keep our eye on that, and we'll get into some other business on the day so we don't lose track of what's cooking over there while we go through some other business, because we got some other good stuff to get into today. And so let's do it, shall we? Another victory for President Trump and the DOJ, Pam Bondi and the team delivering on this one. You see here, this is the case of another union, the National Treasury Employees Union, suing everybody, including the leader of this agency called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You know him as Russell Vought. And these are these independent agencies, so-called, that the Democrats in the Congress set up and that they say can govern the country essentially outside of the presidency. And what happened was a lower level judge called Amy Berman Jackson. You remember her. We've talked a lot about her. Been very anti-Trump, been very pro-Clinton. She was the same judge who led the Clinton sock drawer case and exonerated him for stealing presidential records. But as you can see, this is the decision that has now come down from the Court of Appeals in a major victory for the Trump administration. And so let's go through it while we await the president and Putin to appear. And so we'll just shrink this up just a little smidge here out of our margins. Now, here you can see we've got a bunch of people are in on this case, right? These are not just like one union versus the government. Lots of states have a lot of interest in this. Washington, Oregon, Vermont, okay, all the blue states, Rhode Island, all coming in. Trump can't fire these people. He can't fire anybody. And he has to give us billions of dollars because we're public servants and we deserve it. So here they came down. This is the decision. It's a 2-1. They've already appealed it, right? So they're already asking for a rehearing en banc for the full panel. But as it stands right now, Amy Berman Jackson loses. Here's what the idea is from the court. All right, look, to promote the president's deregulatory agenda, which we're big fans here of, the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they undertook a series of actions to substantially downsize the agency. Now, these actions included terminating employees, canceling contracts, declining funding, moving to smaller headquarters, requiring approval for agency work, and that's some good stuff. Now, the plaintiffs in this case, the people who filed the lawsuit originally with Amy, in this case, they either represent these employees, so it's a union who represents the employee, or it's people who use services that are provided by the agency. They say, well, we are like entitled to those services, and you can't make any changes to any federal provisions because we need them. So they sued. They said this is a decision to just shut down the Bureau. Now, the district court found that the agency leadership, this is Amy Berman Jackson, is the lower level judge, an Obama judge who's getting reversed on this one, found that agency leadership had made a decision. She says they did decide to shut it down. And so she came down and she issued an injunction. She restricted the agency's actions, right? The agency couldn't do anything anymore because Amy Berman was in charge now. They couldn't cancel contracts. They couldn't close facilities. They can't do anything. Now, we hold that Amy, lacked jurisdiction, to consider the claims that are predicated on loss of employment, okay? Because all these people, these lawyers have been, in my opinion, filing as scammers because they have been making claims under the Constitution that are not constitutional claims. They're statutory claims. You lost your job as a federal employee. Guess what? There's a whole mechanism for that. If we just allowed every single employee who got fired in the million plus workforce that unfortunately our federal government has, then they could file constitutional claims for everything. Okay, that's obviously ridiculous. So what Congress did is they created a statute based upon the Constitution to funnel those claims into the statutorily constructed mechanisms. And so what she says right here, it's the same thing that we said from the very beginning on all these. They're filing under the due process clause, under the equal protection clause. They're just making claims up. They're not. There are other provisions, other ways to handle it. So she says you actually have to follow the right rules. And the other plaintiffs' claims target neither the final agency action under the APA nor unconstitutional action that's reviewable in equity. And so Amy Berman Jackson is vacated, afuera, and she's gone. Now, what happened, of course, at least this decision, we'll go into it and see what the actual specifics are, but this still was a delay of the president's ability to make changes at this agency for 8 months about. In 2010, Congress established the CFPB, 2010, and they're going to enforce federal laws to protect financial products. And of course, they went hog wild. Now, Congress gave them broad discretion about how they can pursue these goals and how to set rules and all sorts of things. And the judge is saying may prescribe rules, may. In other words, there's a lot of discretion here that's bundled into the agency. And so we're going to remember that as we're doing our analysis, says the judge. Now, this agency is mostly free to organize its internal affairs as it wishes. The law says they can do all this. For example, it may establish, according to the law, general policies with respect to executive and administrative functions. And apparently Amy Berman Jackson couldn't figure this out, right? Including personnel and contracting matters. It's an entire provision of the U.S. Code. They cited it for you. Right there, Judge. The director may also fix the number of all employees in the Bureau. Literally defined by the statute. They can hire and fire. And the director has unreviewable discretion to determine how much funding the Bureau needs to carry out its objectives, subject only to a statutory cap. Again, U.S. code. Look at those subsections. It's all clear as day. But Amy Berman Jackson didn't want to do that because she just wanted to reach an end goal. It's like, man, they should be impeached. It's like malpractice. The law says it's unreviewable, okay, right here. It's in the statute. It's not, the judges are citing it. Congress did require the Bureau to provide some specific services to the public. Like there are some things they have to do by law. For example, the Bureau must establish reasonable procedures for timely inquiries by consumers. So they got to respond. Doesn't necessarily mean what they have to respond with, but they got to respond. They must prepare reports about interest rates, credit cards, and other matters and deliver those. It must help compile information about depository institutions and other things. And so they're doing all of that still. So what happened is President Trump won, right? The American people are tired of these independent bodies who are wrecking the country. And the president took steps to implement a new deregulatory agenda. He imposed a cross-agency freeze on these regulatory actions and cost-cutting initiatives because we're tired of wasting money. These initiatives brought changes to the Bureau. In fact, Trump removed the director and installed Scott Bessent as the acting director. Then Bessent instructed agency employees and contractors to pause most activities while he evaluated them for consistency with the goals of the administration. He made clear, however, none of this pause applied to the expressly approved, required by law activities. Everything's canceled except for the mandatory spending, mandatory actions we got to do. On February 7th, Trump then designated Russell Vought. Shout out. He became in, replaced Bessent. He reiterated the pause. Now, that same day, Vought also concluded that existing funds, $700 million worth, looks like we got a little mic check going on over here, which is good news, which exceeded $700 million, were sufficient for the Bureau to meet its statutory mandates for the next fiscal quarter. On February 9th, the leadership also decided to close the Bureau's headquarters for a week because of protests, and they decided to cancel the agency headquarters, which had remained largely vacant anyways since COVID. And they moved it to smaller headquarters. Totally ridiculous. So on February 10th, Vought came out. He issued a new directive reminding employees the office is closed, okay? Don't perform any work tasks unless you get permission from Mark Paletta. The parties dispute whether this directive required approval or not, but there was some legally required work that was approved, and Paletta clarified, if it's required by law, don't ask me about it, okay? Just do it. Like it's required, just do it. So over the same time frame, the Bureau addressed a bunch of things, and also they were responding. You can't cancel any contracts, but without specific authorization, or at least some contracts would be reactivated. The Bureau terminated 85 probationary employees, 130 other employees, planned to implement 2 RIFs, and considered placing more on leave, right? So it's like not even that many. I mean, it's 130 term employees, 85 probationary. All right, fired. So 6 plaintiffs sued. They said this is a coordinated effort to eliminate us. 2 plaintiffs, the National Treasury Employees Union, because the people who work for the government, which is the biggest union on the planet, who are working as civil servants, serving the people who just love their work so much, and they just want to be in this position because of their care for society, as they lecture us constantly about. Then they have to go form unions to negotiate better deals with the people who they're serving in public service. Now, the agency represents Bureau employees as well. They allege that the wholesale termination of their members will harm them because they're going to lose revenue. Because if you want to be a part of this employees union, you're going to allow them to siphon off a portion of your weekly paycheck coming in for their benefits. 3 other organizations, the NAACP, the NCLC, the VPLC, they say we're going to have a loss of services here. And this one says his late wife could not meet with the student loan ombudsman after he was fired, right? So he says, I wanted to meet with somebody and I couldn't, so my constitutional rights have been violated. So the plaintiffs brought 2 claims, right? We saw this. The Bureau was going to usurp the Constitution, saying Trump was undermining the separation of powers, blah, blah, blah. Now, after a 2-day hearing, the district court granted an injunction. Amy Berman Jackson said, "This is egregious." The judge, Amy, who's just got reversed, found that the government engaged in a concerted, expedited effort to shut the agency down, and it had no intention of operating the agency at all, which is obviously false because Amy Berman Jackson, Amy Berman, I think it's Jackson, can't read. Got to remember her name too, though. That's my fault. Now, from that premise, the court concluded that the plaintiff were likely to prevail on their separation of powers claim. And the court identified, right, in other words, this is a constitutional violation because Trump is violating Congress's will, and they have the power to make those decisions. Now, the court identified only 2 putative final actions undergirding the claims. An email, which was from Vought saying shut things down, and other materials. Now, the government appealed and moved for a stay, and it challenged the scope of this injunction. And we issued a partial stay, and they did allow termination to continue if there was a particularized assessment. Okay, so they kind of split it for a minute, like, well, you can't fire everybody in batches, but if you have like an individual reason, you can fire them, and then we'll figure it out. That's what they figured it out today. Days later, the agency issued a RIF notice to more than 80% of its workforce. So like, oh, great. Yeah, no problem. You want us to do particularized assessments? We already saw that happen with Rubio and the USAID contracts. They just had one weekend, ordered like a dozen pizzas, and just went through the spreadsheets and canceled independently, every one. The Bureau represented, yeah, we did. We made individualized assessments. We followed literally what you said, and they lifted the stay. Now, lifted the partial stay that said, you can't do that. So now you're stopped from that too, right? They cut them back off. They said, all right, now no more individualized either. So a preliminary injunction is an extraordinary remedy. And as always, we have to start with jurisdiction. Do you even have jurisdiction, Amy, to hear the case? The Bureau of Protection agency contends that they lack jurisdiction. There is no standing for these people to even sue. And we agree with the first contention. No statutory jurisdiction over this type of claim. Here, we know the rules. District courts usually have jurisdictions for claims that arise under federal law. Federal courts, federal law. But a special statutory scheme that Congress passes can say, you know what? We're going to handle these types of claims in this method, in this mechanism. So if you got fired, you don't get to clog up our Article 3 courts with your complaints, okay? Because a lot of people in the federal government get fired, I'm sure. Not as many as there should. But then they go make their claims. I'm a civil servant. You can't fire me. Go complain. Go fill out your form. You know who's going to read that? The government. Good luck. So then that goes through, around and around we go. But that saves the courts from having to deal with it. And many of these claims are trying to escape those statutory requirements by just saying it's a constitutional violation. And that is like sufficient enough. But the judges have allowed this to go on. Now they're getting told, and this is good news. The injuries alleged by the unions say, well, our members lost employment, okay? So they're not getting paid and we can't grift off of them. This agency represents employees who've been fired and they say, we're going to lose money. Now, the Civil Service Reform Act was literally passed by Congress and it creates a regulatory framework for virtually every aspect of federal employment. They're mad that people got fired. And there's an entire framework called the Civil Service Reform Act that explains. Through it, Congress carefully constructed a system for resolving these types of disputes. And we've got a bunch of other rules that are for these as well. And if you go through that process first and you still have a problem, then we can appeal that up to the courts and then they can deal with it. But you got to go through that mechanism first. Now, the organizations say, well, our claims are different. Okay, because it's not about individual employment claims. These are special. we're like a class action kind of a thing, except, it's much broader. The harms are going to be more significant. Now, first, they say we're going to go through, some fundamental and collateral stuff. We'll fast forward through some of this. And in sum, all of these rules are what the Civil Service Reform Act covers. There's rules for all of your complaints. And so the Civil Service Reform Act precludes the district court from having jurisdiction over the case. Congress set up an entire statutory framework for you. Go use that if you want to complain about your injuries. Now, this case arises from several actions taken by the leadership to downsize the agencies. And did I just get into? Yeah, okay, so let's continue. The APA, we know, was another one of their claims, and they're going to get rid of that one. This is a big decision. Lujan, and lots of case law analysis, just fast forwarding through it. Here's the specifics about the email. They say this email is not final agency action, okay? And looks like we got some big people maybe coming in to sit down. A lot of people taking selfies and photos. Hey, it's that dude. Front row's filling in a little bit. Oh, there's Stephen Chung. He's up front. Can recognize some of the back of the heads. Don't know those guys. I think that's Stephen Chung right there. White House comms. All right. So we'll keep our eye on that. We just wanted to pause and see what's going on that. So we're going to picture that puppy back up and continue to march through this. The email is not final agency action, and it triggered no legal consequences for employees, contractors, or other parties. It didn't terminate anybody. It didn't cancel anything. It didn't purport to prohibit statutory tasks. And so it wasn't illegal. And now about the shutdown decision. They say they point to no regulation or order pointing to any shutdown decision. In fact, it's been the opposite. The government has not shut it down at all. All of the mandatory things that it has to do, it's doing. The government says we didn't do that at all. First, it says the agency leadership at all times said that it's going to remain open and it's going to perform all of its statutory required functions. Second, it contends no decision to shut down the Bureau was ever reduced to a final reviewable agency actions. Questions of what we wanted or intended to do are factual. And we're reluctant to conclude that the district court's factual assessments were clearly erroneous, but the question of what counts as a final agency action is a legal one. And so we don't have to listen to the judge and see what, have to question her facts. And so we agree with the government that there was no reviewable decision to shut down the agency that would have given them a claim under the APA that they can sue for. So you can see it goes on, and it's a nice win and a decision coming down for the Trump administration. So we'll fast forward all the way. It's a 109-page decision. So let me save you the scroll here a little bit, and we'll get down to the conclusion because they go through the dissent, and it's a lot of analysis on this. So we'll see what the court says. In conclusion, some of the plaintiffs cannot establish jurisdiction, and the others have no viable cause of action. And so the plaintiff's claims, therefore, fail as a matter of law. And so Amy Berman, her preliminary injunction is now vacated. They don't have a claim, so it's going to go back down to her court. And they say you have to remand for further proceedings consistent with this opinion. Now, they have already asked for a stay on this, and so it has been granted. So they're going to ask for a full hearing, but you just saw we got 100 pages of pretty good explanation about why they should use the law as written. But they're going to hold off on entering the order. So it's ordered on the court's own motion that the mandate is stayed for 7 days because they want to file for a rehearing for the full court, which of course they'll do. So it's going to be a good victory, but It's going to be paused for a little bit. We'll see what the full panel does. Maybe the full panel reinstates it and finds differently, and then we go to the Supreme Court. But what we're seeing here are these, close decisions, even from the DC Circuit, 2-1. We had one yesterday, had one here today. So good news. The president is now having the power that he should have had from the very beginning restored, and at least technically restored on stay for a little bit, but trending in the right direction. And so we'll keep our eye on these cases. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. Now, as we await the latest, let's pause. I'll show you what's cooking over on the cables.
Because he still felt an in-person meeting with him and Putin, following on to the several phone calls they had, would be an important ingredient, and there was value in it. And it certainly
couple
wasn't
different
worth
angles.
Losing everything over that. And he certainly deferred all the substance of what would entail security guarantees and the steps toward an end of war agreement, which is very complicated given all the issues, that Zelensky would have to be front and center with Putin for all of that. So that is likely something that has been worked out at this meeting, if we're actually going to go to other meetings with Putin. And I'm making an assumption here that I don't know for a fact, that Putin has certainly agreed to that. And hopefully that is the case. But the president has been very clear from the beginning. I am not negotiating on behalf of Ukraine. They have to do that for themselves. And that is exactly the right statement to make to Putin as well.
All right, so we'll keep our eye on that. We'll get our picture-in-picture back popped out over here so we can keep tabs on what's going on. But let's see what else is happening out in New Orleans. New Orleans mayor busted, now charged in an indictment with multiple felonies. Not good. We'll go through it. You see, this is the cover sheet, which now has landed in a U.S. district court with felony charges coming down the line to her, listed here at the top in the Eastern District of Louisiana. Felony! This is for the mayor, LaToya Cantrell, the mayor of New Orleans. And this case has been going on for a while, a long investigation. A little bit of background here, though. Boom. Long corruption investigation resulted in an indictment. Cantrell's lawyer, Eddie Castating, said that an indictment was returned, her name was read aloud, and we now know the charges. Now, this has been going on in a long time. This is the first female mayor in the city's 300-year history, now indicted. Cantrell, whose term limited, is going to leave in January anyways. The Democrat has clashed with city council. We'll read the indictment. She hasn't sent out a message yet on her official feed because she's probably very unhappy today, not having a good day. Although maybe she's calling Fannie Willis for some advice and they can go on a cruise together. So here is what we see. An indictment returned against the defendant, LaToya Cantrell. Signed here by the court on numerous charges: conspiracy, wire fraud, conspiracy to obstruct justice, false statements, obstruction of justice, and a false declaration before the grand jury. Bad LaToya. Not good, LaToya. Not good at all. So here is another cover sheet. Don't need that one, but here is one that we do need. This is the indictment. Dun, dun, dun. It's a superseding indictment, which means there was one that came down before it. And this is probably just adding in the mayor, just modifying the name, adding in the other charges. And here we go. So she's not alone. She's got a co-defendant called Jeffrey Paul Vappy. So it's Vappy and LaToya. All right. Here are the charges, and here is what went down. Count one, out of New Orleans, conspiracy. Let's go through it, see what happened. LaToya Cantrell, she was the mayor of the city of New Orleans. In fact, she was elected to serve a 4-year term November 17, was reelected November 21 to serve a second 4-year term. She's out in January. Now, the mayor, as mayor, Cantrell received physical protection from the New Orleans Police Department. They have an executive protection unit because she's special now. Now, the defendant, also Jeffrey Paul Vappy, the co-defendant and co-conspirator, it sounds like, served as a member of the unit. And was assigned to provide protection for Cantrell for a long period of time from these dates to these dates. So in October 21, Cantrell and Vappy, they started to indict each other. They developed a personal and intimate relationship. Man, it just happens. How does that happen? Happened with Fannie and Nathan too. The only one it hasn't happened for yet is Letitia, but she's, like 7'2", so she might have a hard time out there. But she hasn't, I don't think, indicted anybody. Maybe her and DA Bragg can get together to hide their relationship from detection and to maximize their time together. What did they do? Go on cruises or hold meetings, hold staff meetings in their offices like Fannie did? Cantrell and Vappy exploited their public positions to develop and implement a scheme to defraud the city of New Orleans and the police department by engaging in personal activities. What kind of personal activities? Disgusting. While Vappy claimed to be on duty and was paid for providing protection for Cantrell. Now, do we have a picture of Vappy here? Because I just want to see, I just kind of want to put a face to a name here. I don't think we got any photos of him. That's unfortunate. Let me see if we'll see if we can get one. Now, as part of their scheme, Cantrell and Vappy arranged for Vappy to accompany the mayor when she traveled on official business outside of the state. Now, she falsely claimed she needed protection while traveling due to safety concerns. Yeah, I'm sure. So they orchestrated out-of-state trips to maximize their opportunities to engage in personal activities. In total, their trips cost $70,000, separate from her own travel costs. So this dude, as her security agent, is securing her premises every night. And she's flying them all over the place on the taxpayer dollar. She is inspired by Fannie. This is why this conduct cannot be allowed to persist. Oh, and we're glad she's charged. Fannie hopefully is next. Aware their conduct violated rules, policies, and criminal laws, they knew what they were doing. Cantrell and Vappy attempted to distract and to impede inquiries and investigations, including a federal grand jury investigation about the true nature and the circumstances of their relationship and their scheme to defraud the taxpayers. They did this by using an encrypted messaging platform, intimidating and punishing subordinates, just like Fannie, lying to colleagues and advisors, just like Fannie, making false public pronouncements, just like Fannie, harassing a private individual who took pictures of them in public, deleting electronic evidence like Hillary, making false statements to federal law enforcement agents, authorizing an affidavit signed under oath, and testifying falsely while under oath before a grand jury. She's a bad LaToya. Now, the police department, the NOPD, New Orleans PD, was an agency of New Orleans. They're located here, and they fell under the authority of the superintendent, and the superintendent works for, guess who? The mayor. The New Orleans parish was a law enforcement entity, and they were employed, they employed the EPU, the Executive Protection Unit. Approximately 4 members of the EPU, each of whom was a law enforcement officer, provided protection. They were split into 2 teams. The 2 teams were organized to work on a rotating schedule. They provided security on a schedule. The mayor's EPU personnel also provided protection for the mayor when the mayor was away from the place of residence. Now, they typically did not provide personal protection when the mayor was at the location at which the mayor was residing. Okay, when the mayor did not leave home during the day or after the mayor returned to the mayor's residence, except when there was a visible threat. So they're not hanging outside constantly. Now, in the course of their duties, EPU members rarely entered the mayor's residence because, it's the mayor's residence. On such occasions, EPU members only spent a brief period inside. Even when extenuating circumstances arose, they were outside providing protection. That's where they would stay. Now, members of this group were paid bi-weekly at regular and overtime rates. Members of this agency also worked to a sergeant on a regular basis as well. Now, the information that officers, including the mayor's protection members, provided about their hours worked went into a time log. We certified these time logs. When they went on official business trips, That was fine. They got a daily allowance for meals and other things. Okay, a lot of details. They also had rules and policies. Okay, so you're prohibited. You can't drink alcohol. You can't use your position for personal or financial gain. You have to perform your duties on the shift. You have to begin punctually. No personal business. Accurate time cards. All the things. So we know, okay, don't sleep with your protectee. Defendant Jeffrey Paul Vappy. Now, he was an adult resident of the Orleans Parish, and he was employed as an officer with the New Orleans Police Department. So it's a cop and a mayor. Isn't that something? In or around August 23, Vappy was promoted to the rank of senior police officer. And Vappy, senior, promoted. He maintained financial accounts at JP Morgan ending in 1877-8514, and he received payments right into those accounts. He was assigned a number to serve as a member, and he was injured on July 19, 2022. But then he was again assigned to come back from June 2023 to April 2024. He attended trainings. He went to ethics school. He knows what to do. And so that's how he came back into the picture. But the defendant, the mayor, she got elected November 18th, 4-year term. Then she got elected again, 2021. She got city protection from the EPU unit. Typically, on the preceding afternoon or evening, a member of the staff circulated a document containing her schedule, and then the protection would be on call. The email recipients would include Cantrell, members of the EPU, and various members of Cantrell staff. So her assistant says, this is what she's going to be doing. You guys get ready. Okay, great. On or about March 22nd, Cantrell appointed Vappy to serve as a member of the Board of Commissioners. Wow. On Hanno. We got some activity over here. What's going on? I think that might have been Witkoff. So I think Witkoff might be in the room. You can see Caitlin Collins is right there. And here, let's listen into what she's saying. Here we got that.
Since Helsinki, because yes, President Biden met with President Putin back in Geneva when he was in office, but they held separate press conferences after that, where they broke on several of the key issues amid a lot of tension in those viewpoints there. And so right now we're watching as the key advisors who were inside that meeting. And Jake, this is also really the first indication that we have gotten that the 3-on-3 meeting is over, because Steve Witkoff was inside that meeting that we know stretched for well past 2.5 hours before reporters were abruptly assembled and told to come to their seats for the press conference and that it was imminent. So that is an indication that meeting is over. Of course, the key question that we don't know yet is what is the outcome of that meeting, Jake? We have not gotten any indication as we've tried to, question some of the officials who were in here who have said wait and hear it from the president himself when he enters the room. Of course, he'll be standing side by side with President Putin as well here, Jake. And just
all right, cool. So we'll keep our eye on that and get our picture-in-picture queued up. But you can see the room is filling in, and it looks like we're getting pretty close to some updates. So let's go back to the document. We now know personal correspondence between Cantrell, the mayor, and her security team. Oh, gosh. It's going to be like the Fannie Nathan Wade texts. WhatsApp was a free end-to-end encrypted cellular text messaging device. We know what it is. They began using this February 2022. In fact, they exchanged over 15,000 messages via WhatsApp. It was just like, it's so many numbers. Look at that. How many a month? Okay. February to October, 15,000 messages. How many messages is that a day? Are they working? Are they just texting all day? I don't know if I've sent 15,000 text messages in my life. Cantrell's travel approximately 5 months after Vappy joined EPU and started providing security protection for Cantrell. Cantrell began arranging for a member of her staff to accompany her on out-of-state trips. So then in October 2021, Vappy accompanied Cantrell to Scotland. Wow. Vappy would later reminisce in a WhatsApp message to Cantrell. Yeah, you remember that's where it all started. So romantic. Why is the mayor of New Orleans going to Scotland? Okay, these people just go on field trips. They don't do any work. In an interview with a local television station, Cantrell justified having people accompany her on trips outside of Louisiana because it's due to COVID. Shouldn't you not bring them? You should keep your social distance, okay? 6 feet distance, lady. You were much closer than that. And absolutely tied to my health and well-being. Yeah, because you were getting indicted in Scotland by your security guard. Ridiculous. COVID. It was for her well-being. She's like, man, I needed to get, railed. A separate statement, Cantrell explained that her travel accommodations were a matter of safety, not of luxury. Yeah, right. As all women know, our health and safety are often disregarded, and we are left to navigate alone. Oh, okay. So this guy was also going to read the map for her or something too? Wild. So do women, you all feel that way too? I guess all women know your health and safety are disregarded. So you have to use taxpayer dollars to fly them to Scotland with you so you can sleep with them and not tell anybody about it in violation of your ethical duties and the law. I don't think so, because of COVID. Got it. Notwithstanding her justification for needing these people, she continued to travel outside without them. So she did a bunch of other trips because Vappy was supposed to go, but he could not go due to injury. Okay, so he got injured again. This guy's, what's he doing? Similarly, Cantrell also canceled a work trip to Miami, Florida, where she was scheduled to attend a fall leadership meeting. Now, at the same time that she canceled the Miami trip, she booked a personal trip in which she traveled alone from New Orleans to Martha's Vineyard. That's curious because Mayor Bowser was just there. Via commercial airplane, commercial bus, and public ferry to spend time with Vappy while he attended a conference paid for by the city of New Orleans based on his recent position on the Hanno Board of Commissioners. How did he get that job? She appointed him to the board. Okay, so she pays for some of it. She appoints him to some board. He pays for the other half using their expenditures. All just a big giant grift on our dime. Now, Vappy's official travel between in or around September 21 to March 24, while purporting to serve as on-deputy member, I think that was Lavrov who just came in and sat down. So we're getting close. Vappy accompanied Cantrell, the cop and the mayor, on at least 14 trips outside the state of Louisiana, including the domestic destinations like LA, California, Orlando, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Scotland, and the UAE. Absolutely outstanding. Lots of money going for their little trips. Let's jump in over here. Lots of activity now. CIA, John, is that John Ratcliffe, I think, popping in?
She may have to give up on this. Let's see you live.
Rubio entered the stage. Rubio and Witkoff. All right, which side do you think Trump takes? Left or right? Left or right? What's the poll? What side does Trump get? Just drop the poll. Let's see what you guys say. I'm going to go with...
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America and the President
side
of the Russian Federation.
I'm going to go with right. Oh, we did it! Right on my side, okay? Not from their side. Wow, all right.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We had very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor, very good to see you, in good health, and to see you alive," I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the U.S. island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the U.S., and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Land-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the U.S. pilots. And there are 2 flags, the U.S. flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots that buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the U.S. for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster mutually beneficial and equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the U.S. for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they've fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later, we had to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue. Naturally, under the condition of serious and painstaking work, this work has been done in general. Me and President Trump had very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And special envoy of the President, Mr. Witkoff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the administration and President Trump personally to help facilitate the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict, and his strive to get to the crux of the matter, to understand its history, is precious. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation. However strange it may sound in these conditions, we have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us, a terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots, the primary causes of that conflict, and we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine.
We got an agreement?
We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress. Incidentally, when the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that the U.S. and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the U.S. can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that Arctic cooperation is also very possible. And our international context, for example, between the Far East of Russia and the West Coast of the U.S. Overall, it's very important for our countries to turn the page, to go back to cooperation. It is symbolic that not far away from here, the border between Russia and the U.S., there is a so-called international date line. I think you can step over, literally, from yesterday into tomorrow. And I hope that we'll succeed in that. In political sphere. I would like to thank President Trump for our joint work, for the well-wishing and trustworthy tone of our conversation. It's important that both sides are result-oriented, and we see that the President of the U.S. has a very clear idea of what he would like to achieve. He sincerely cares about the prosperity of his nation. Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreement will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the U.S. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, business-like, and trustworthy contact.
Yeah, it's on the left. Sorry.
That moving down this path, we can come
interpreters on the left. Take your right earphone out.
To the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you.
Woo. All right, so not a lot of specifics on that, obviously, today. It sounds like it's going to be a work in progress. We thought we heard a little bit of a translation there, like something about an agreement. Maybe Putin was agreeing on some points, But a very interesting development. And I mean, the alternative to this, that a lot of people are screaming about, Trump meet with Putin and he brought him here. I mean, it's a big thing that Putin landed in Alaska, right? I wonder if he would have come to D.C., but he landed in Alaska. Next time he says, come to Moscow, let's normalize relations and stop this. And it is a step, I think, in the right direction. I mean, the alternative under like the Biden strategy or under the Lindsey Graham strategy until Trump won was just to keep spending money like indefinitely. Versus, is there a possibility that we can talk about this and just solve this thing? Trump is a nice excuse. He's a fresh set of eyes. He can come in here and he can break away from the old, Biden and prior type of foreign policy, where it's just like, we'll just keep spending money. We don't have to talk because we can just print money endlessly and give it to them and call it a day. And then come back down here and wave Ukrainian flags all across our capital, our House of Representatives, lunatics waving foreign flags. And we're now happy to see that we're inching towards another resolution rather than just endless bombing and endless spending and endless war. How do we come to a deal where there are security guarantees for everybody? And we've got some actual adults who are actually willing to have conversations and talk about it and work it out. Trump's there. The whole crew is there. Awesome to see it. I mean, the visuals are, it's history. It's history in the making. We're watching it right now. It's like maybe the beginning of the end of the war. So awesome times. Shout out to the president's team and everybody who made it happen and everybody in that room. What a cool experience to see. And of course, we'll keep our eye on it. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch more reporting on what some of the details are, but we'll keep our eye on that one. But as it stands, sounds like it's just a real nice development towards talking about a solution in hopes of getting there. We'll see if we get there or not, but we'll keep our eye on it. All right, now let's turn our attention back to this indictment. So here is where we left off as we were kind of half paying attention and reading and watching. So let's refresh our recollection. Back from intermission, we got Vappy, who is the cop, who is now in an intimate relationship with the mayor of New Orleans, Cantrell. And he's also hurt himself multiple times. We don't know if those injuries were related to his intimacy or not, but maybe. The city of New Orleans incurred more than $70,000 in costs for his trips outside of Louisiana, lodging, meals, incidentals, and salary. And that's, okay, from September to March. So it's, 2.5 years, while purporting to serve as a member of the EPU, but all going out of town. For example, Vappy and Cantrell traveled from New Orleans to San Francisco for what? An environmental law conference. I've been to law conferences. Yeah, and they're just, everybody's just drinking and trying to have sex with everybody. So April 6th to ended on April 8th. Okay. A bunch of lawyers who are just like, yeah, no, we're going to talk about environmental law. And go get CLE hours for it. As a result of the April 2022 trip to San Francisco, the city of New Orleans incurred expenses for Vappy and Cantrell of over $9,000. They paid him too. $1,600 in salary and overtime. These people are so shameless. So shameless. I mean, I would feel so guilty. I hardly accept anything from anybody if I can help it, because it's like, no, man, you can't give me that. Are you kidding me? Let me pay you for that. I can't take that for free. Are you kidding? Here, they're like, actually, they just got done sleeping with each other. And he's like, oh, perfect. Just got paid for overtime. Are you kidding? Well, no, he actually is indicted now, so it's good. Vappy and Cantrell traveled from New Orleans to Washington for the stated purpose of meeting for 1 hour with a representative of the U.S. DOJ. So all these stupid trips, couldn't have done that on Zoom. As a result, they also $3,000 and another $1,100 in salary and overtime. It's crazy too, because remember Nathan Wade got like $700,000 was some of what the totals were. On or about September 28th, Vappy and Cantrell also went to Atlanta, Georgia. Oh my gosh. You know who they met there? Fannie, attending a one-day conference, probably with some other lawyers, called Fannie and Nathan. On or about September 29th, Vappy and Cantrell traveled from Atlanta to LA for a global green community Lower Ninth Ward sponsor launch event. She got him an upgrade to first class, baby. We're not going to put you in coach. Those New Orleans taxpayers are going to give you an upgrade. They got the warm towels up there. It's so nice. But she used her personal American Express credit card for that. So let's see what happens here. As a result, her personal credit card between the trip, as a result of September 2022 trip to Atlanta and LA, the city of New Orleans incurred expenses of over $5,000, including paying him $1,400. So I don't know if that's her personal city credit card or what. But we also got an apartment too. Incredible. The city of New Orleans owns an apartment in this one French Quarter. Until or around March 24, the mayor had access to that apartment. Not later than mid-2022, EPU members treated the apartment in a manner similar to the personal residence of the mayor, including not providing protection while she was inside. During shifts, Vappy claimed to be on duty for EPU. He frequently spent time inside the apartment, both with Cantrell and alone. So he would just hang out too after they were done. She's like, I got to go to work. He's like, I'm just going to take a nap. On or about November 9th, local New Orleans media outlets first published and broadcast reports about Vappy and his frequent stays. Like, what's he doing in there for so long? Vappy was removed from the EPU after that, right? Media starts reporting on it, local media. He's reassigned. Then on November 14th, he conducted numerous online searches for attorneys who specialize in the practice of criminal defense in New Orleans. I know one, including female defense attorney near me. Hilarious. On multiple occasions, including on or about January 18th, Cantrell made public statements in which she denied having a romantic relationship with him. No. I'm not Fannie Willis. I'm not indicting my staff. On or about June 15th, the interim superintendent of the police formally sustained findings. There was an internal investigation and said, yeah, Vappy, the cop, committed misconduct when he was protecting the mayor. Shortly before doing so, the superintendent notified the mayor that we're gonna sustain the findings against him. So he's in trouble. He shouldn't have been indicting you in your house. In or around June, Cantrell directed the superintendent. She ordered him. I'm the mayor. Do you know who runs this city? I do. So I am ordering you to reassign Vappy back to the EPU because she needs some. It's been a while. She's like, I need him to come over. Acting at Cantrell's direction. On or about June 22nd, he did it. He's like, man, she's crazy. And I don't know if she gave him, like this face. She probably was like looking at him like, you put him back on the EPU or there's going to be repercussions for you. And he's like, Jesus, okay, I'll do it. On or about September 11th, Cantrell informed the superintendent during an in-person meeting that the interim superintendent would not become the permanent superintendent. Wow. So she just nuked that dude. Vappy was at that meeting. He's like, yeah, see, punk. This is crazy. Vappy's probably mean mugging that dude dead in the eyes. On or about September 22nd, the interim superintendent ended. He got fired or not renewed. Beginning on or about April 15th, 2024. So we're getting closer in time. Then media outlets published other reports. Vappy and Cantrell are dining and consuming alcohol together during the times that Vappy claimed to be on duty for the EPU. Okay, so this is crazy. Like, this is so stupid. These criminals are so dumb. It's crazy. Like, this guy, just to show you, I gotta just pause on it. This guy knows he's committing crimes. He's looking for female defense attorneys. He's like, my agency is investigating me. I'm in big trouble, okay? He had a very panicky night. November 14th, not a good night for him. He was out searching people. I've got these phone calls at 2 a.m. Hey, man, just want to talk. Okay. Freaking out and searching for defense lawyers. But then his sugar mama, the mayor of New Orleans, comes back out, installs him back into his position of criminality, fires the person who busted him essentially, and he goes right back to it. So then the reports included photographs. They're engaging in personal activities back on the team in public that were taken by a New Orleans resident, right? Goes right back to it. Didn't learn a thing. He had like an escape hatch. You should have just called it right then. Vappy was again removed from the EPU, okay, cut again, and reassigned to another position. So then, on May 9th, Cantrell, the mayor, filed a police report that included non-public information and characterized the behavior of the New Orleans resident who took pictures as menacing to the point Cantrell was concerned for her safety, okay? So this maniac narcissist mayor who thinks she can just indict her staff on the taxpayer dollar dime and travel to environmental conferences so she can sleep with them, she wants to prosecute the person who's a citizen who caught her, and she's using non-public information, okay? So she goes and probably like looked up the file, looked up this dude's like city residence or something, sends a report in. Then on May 10th, Cantrell filed a petition for protection from stalking or sexual assault. So this is like an order of protection, right? The same thing that Kilmar Abrego, the wife beater that his wife took out against him twice. She takes that out against this person who's just a New Orleans resident who took pictures of her disgusting mayor. She said, I'm getting harassed. Then in June, Vappy was resigned from the police. Then he's gone, right? Now he's learned his lesson. He's like, all right, time's up. So then on or about July 14th, so this dude resigns July 14th. This is actually before, so a year before. Special agents at the FBI interviewed Vappy at his residence in New Orleans about a year before he resigns. And during that interview, we warned him he made materially false statements to the FBI, which is why you don't talk. FBI agents also served Vappy with a subpoena issued by a federal grand jury. And it required a bunch of things. Everything. Gifts, pictures, gifts that Vappy gave to Cantrell, gifts that Cantrell gave to Vappy, and more. On or about July 18, 23, a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Louisiana issued a subpoena to Cantrell. We want all your text messages between Cantrell and Yappy and documents concerning the gifts that Vappy gave and an affidavit. So then in May, a federal grand jury issued another subpoena. This is 2024. Hey, Mayor, you got to show up here and testify at a grand jury proceeding. And just to be clear on this, like you see how much effort went into this grand jury proceeding? They've got witnesses, they've got subpoenas, they're doing interviews, lots of stuff, right? Compare and contrast that to the Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury proceeding, which we saw took 90 minutes. Nobody came in to testify, only one federal agent. Remember that? So you can just see, like the FBI, when they want to investigate something, they know how to do it. This is just, two narcissists, fraudsters, who are thieves, ultimately, stealing from the people. That's all it is. Stealing time, stealing effort, stealing money, stealing trips, stealing access. That's all it is. It's just theft. But Maxwell, and theft, is bad, don't get me wrong, but Maxwell was child trafficking and underage intercourse and some of the worst crimes ever, okay? You can see here, they're issuing subpoenas. Their FBI is doing a lot of work on this. The grand jury that we talked about for Ghislaine Maxwell was about 90 minutes, as we saw. There were two of them, and they were both very short. One may have been 4 hours, but it was one witness testifying. That's all. Because it was a scam. Now, on or about June 28th, Cantrell came in. She appeared before the grand jury. She was placed under oath, and she lied right through her teeth to the grand jury. What a moron. Beginning at a time unknown, but not later than on or around October 21st, the conspiracy started. Here's what went down. In the Eastern District of Louisiana, the conspiracy is that Vappy and LaToya, they knowingly and willfully conspired to defraud their constituency. Here's how they did it. We know that Vappy was personal protection, and he was engaged in personal activities. And they began using WhatsApp. And in fact, Cantrell told a trusted staff member that she was moving Vappy to WhatsApp altogether. Okay, we're on WhatsApp only. She admits, I deleted our history and I put him back in my phone as Vappy, but business only. Like, I'm not sleeping with him anymore. But unfortunately for her, they exchanged over 15,000 personal messages and pictures and voice messages. to avoid detection and continue their relationship. You know, normally we want to read these things. You know, we like looking at documents here on this channel, but I don't think so for those. 15,000 messages and voice pictures. No, we'll take their word for it. Vappie and Cantrell deleted messages they exchanged, and they discussed which City of New Orleans employee could and could not be trusted with the truth about their personal and intimate relationship. When asked by fellow EPU members, Vappie denied his involvement in an intimate relationship with her. What? Her? No, she's gross. Vappie, however, participated in the Hanno meetings during his on-duty shifts. Okay, so this dude is double dipping. So he's billing the EPU for his protection of the mayor while he's attending his board meetings for which the mayor appointed him. Vappie and Cantrell ate meals. They consumed alcohol together while he was working, allegedly. They also treated the apartment as their personal shared residence. The mayor often said, "Hey, I'll meet you at our apartment," when messaging him. "It's ours, baby. I love you." They frequently coordinated spending time together inside the apartment, and Cantrell occasionally canceled scheduled work events to facilitate her bang sessions with her officer. Canceled work, stealing time from the people. Vappie and Cantrell used their public positions to coordinate work trips, and they engaged in personal and intimate activities, and they also signed false documents. Travel expenses falsely reflected that this was all business. It was not. Cantrell also lied to members of the news media about this. Vappie attempted to persuade the superintendent to exonerate them, and he told the superintendent that you could make it right before we fix this. Cantrell convened a meeting, brought Vappie, told the superintendent, "You're gone." Okay. Like that's insane. She brings her lover in and fires the dude who busted them right in front of him. That's like mob, that's like Godfather status, you know, except, you know, politics. Here, Cantrell abused her public position. Like, you know, it's surprised she didn't shoot him right there, but basically did, to seek non-public information in support of and a restraining order against the person who caught them taking pictures. Vappie also lied to federal agents who interviewed him. The mayor concealed and withheld documents that she was required to give to us. She provided an affidavit filled with lies, and she lied to a grand jury about everything. And so in furtherance of all of this, they should be charged with conspiracy. And they are. Here are overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. On or about February 25th, Cantrell canceled meetings throughout the day, and they went back to their apartment, and they just indicted each other. On or about February 27th, Vappie caused another sergeant to report that Vappie worked on duty from 8 until 12, even though he was in the apartment during the entire time. On or about March 3rd, Vappie conducted an online search for Nashville mayor affair. Okay, so he knows. He's like, man, we're busted. Then they exchanged the following message. On WhatsApp, the mayor says, "Hey, baby, San Francisco is April 6th through 8. You know, it officially ends at 4 p.m. on the 8th. Do we return on the 8th and stay at the apartment or return on the 9th? Vappie's like, "Yes, absolutely." Cantrell, "Absolutely on what?" "On the going to the apartment after the trip." "Oh, I'm sorry, Vappie. I got it now. We stay and do the Napa Valley like you said." She says, "Perfect. Thumbs up." Thumbs up emoji. So, do Napa Valley like you said. We stay and do the Napa Valley. Which I think is what Fanny and Nathan did. Didn't they do that? I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure they did. They went wine tasting somewhere in California. Maybe it was Napa Valley. So, incredible. So, yeah, they're going to go have some wine tasting together. Thumbs up. Love you, baby. Okay, have a great day, honey. See you at home. See you at our apartment. On or about March 22nd, Cantrell appointed Vappie to the Board of Commissioners. Then, after an EPU member sent a text message to the rest of the team stating that anyone on EPU having an affair should stop because of the detrimental consequences it could have on Cantrell and the team, Cantrell and Vappy separately confronted that member about the text message. Dang. And Vappy denied to the EPU member that he and Cantrell were banging, even though they were. So that's crazy. So this one dude has had enough. He's like, man, I'm so sick of this dude going in there and sleeping with her all night long. He's like, I have to sit out here and protect. It's ridiculous. So he sends his text message. Hey, I know one of you, to the whole group, I know one of you is banging the mayor, and you should stop it because it's embarrassing us. So then they single that dude out. And on April 4th, Cantrell told an associate, please don't accuse me in response to this, telling Cantrell, it is a felony to have your lover be paid to work and have his travel paid for by the city. Somebody sent her this message. That Nashville mayor had to pay back like $50K and serve 3 years probation. She is done. Please don't let this be your path, LaToya. And she did. On or about, it was a wise message from somebody. She said, please don't accuse me. I'm not doing this. On or about April 5th, in response to the text message that an associate sent her, saying spending public funds and using public resources for your personal relationship is illegal, Cantrell falsely stated, well, my relationship is not about a personal relationship. It's a work relationship. We do a lot of work together in the bedroom, and challenged her associate to prove to me that I am having a relationship. Do you have any proof? Do you have any actual proof of anything? So then on April 9th, Vappy, Cantrell, and one of Cantrell's trusted staff members who was in on it visited several California wineries and appeared in a picture that the trusted staff member posted on social media. Oh, busted. Staff member busted them. Looks like they're right there. So there's a photo of Vappy. Looks very Vappy indeed. So shortly thereafter, the staff member, an associate, so she posts that, right? Her staffer who's in Napa Valley with them. Look at these two. Wow, it's so beautiful traveling with the mayor. We're just having so much wine. It's such a beautiful trip. Shortly thereafter, somebody, an associate of Cantrell, contacted the staff member who posted that and said, you know, Vappy was in the picture. Can you remove that? Cantrell then instructed the associate to not contact my staff. Dang. She's nuts. That was like an assist to her. Now this is showing up an indictment in a photo, in a photo in an indictment. On or about April 10th, Vappy reported the time that he claimed to have worked as well. He's in Napa Valley serving wine. Specifically, he reported that he worked on duty despite spending 2 hours inside the apartment, engaging in personal activities, and even attending a meeting. Vappy also reported that he worked the following hours while they were in San Francisco, 9 to 12, 9 to 12, 9 to 12. On or about April 13th, he also submitted another travel expense form, and guess who approves his travel expenses? The mayor, Cantrell. $2,300. Oh yeah, that's very expensive. Thanks for protecting me so good. On or about August 5th, Cantrell and Vappy also manipulated their schedules so they could go hang out at the apartment and not work. Vappy texted his partner saying, hey, partner, message the boss, meet at City Hall for 10 a.m. instead of 6:30 a.m. pickup. So on or about, right, so I got to sleep in because we had a long night. On or about August 17th, Cantrell, the mayor, and Vappy, her lover, sent the following messages. Cantrell says, okay, so I will have to go to D.C. on Monday. He says, I know. I want to leave on Sunday. Will you be going? He says, absolutely, if it's possible. But your staff didn't, or rather hasn't said anything. Okay, well, I will make that happen if you say it's okay. He says, oh, it's definitely okay. I'd love to come. Okay, smiley face emoji. She says, I want to leave Sunday and come back on Tuesday. He's like, great, whatever you want to do. Sounds great. So she says, this person has info. He says, good, got it. He says, we need this. She says, boy, do we need this. Gross. On or about August, why? Because they're so stressed out from all their theft. On or about August 23rd, Vappy sent Cantrell a message via WhatsApp in which Vappy, among other things, described the great trip. Another great trip, baby. Also another leg on our journey. And he said, Mayor, I love you and our physical relationship. Oh, I don't know what he said too. And her butt. I love you and your butt or something. Gross. On or about August 23rd, Vappy and Cantrell arranged for Vappy to replace another EPU member. Okay, no, we're not going to go with him. They were scheduled to go with her to Buenos Aires, Argentina. Vappy later described as a nice one. He's like, no, I wanted to go to Argentina. That was a good one. Why is the mayor of New Orleans going to Argentina? It's just like field trips for politicians. On or about August 24th, Vappy submitted a travel expense form, which Cantrell later approved for $1,300 again. Another message. Vappy sends to her, hey, baby, I'm going to go to lunch with the guys and come be with you at the end of today's conference. I'm not going on the bus tour. She says, okay, good. So she's like, yeah, so she's mad. He's going on the bus tour. So we're just going to come home to you. So that's about 3:30 you'll be done, meaning we might get out earlier. Well, let me know about where for lunch to make sure I'm out of sight so she can hide from him. Then they discussed a public records request. Somebody sent in a records request about her schedule and whether a local investigative reporter, somebody from News Media 1, was, quote, onto us, busted. Then Cantrell sent Vappy a message via WhatsApp. Says, the times when we are truly alone traveling is what spoils me the most. Ugh. On or about September 29th, during a period Vappy was supposedly on duty in LA, Vappy went in to Le Montrose in West Hollywood. Isn't that nice? And purchased multiple alcoholic beverages and charged the expense to her room. 2 Stellas and 4 Old Fashions for a cool $90, charged right to the people of New Orleans. You're welcome. I hope they enjoyed them. On or about October 3rd, then they discussed via WhatsApp that we got to be careful, okay? We got to be straight and together. Then Cantrell and Vappy discussed having someone perform a sweep of the apartment for recording devices. I wonder if anybody planted something in there. Then Vappy reported that he worked the following hours on duty. Obviously, he was not. He also sent another expense form, $2,600 for that. She approves it. Yep, definitely. On or about November 12th, after public reports came out saying they're having a relationship, Vappy conducted online searches about WhatsApp and its level of security. It's like, how can they subpoena records? Can you subpoena records from WhatsApp? Does it delete your... On or about December, Cantrell activated the disappearing messages feature for the WhatsApp communication device, which caused all new messages to disappear after 24 hours. Nuking the evidence. Then Cantrell manually deleted thousands of messages between October and January. On March, after a local's news media outlet busted them, Vappy conducted online searches about the media reporter. Oh, damn. This cop says, where does this person live? Puts that right in Google. His next search, how to murder someone without getting away with it. How to Google that. How to dispose of a dead body. In or around June 2023, Cantrell directed the superintendent to reassign him, put him back on my detail because I need him there. On or about July 14th, Vappy spoke with special agents at the FBI. He gave numerous false statements to them, lied to them. The day after speaking with the special agents, Vappy visited the WhatsApp website, and he says he went to the About page for about disappearing messages. Like, is there a record of those if they disappear forever? He's searching. On or about October 25th, in response to this, Cantrell produced a selection of records, which did not include all of the other messages. So the mayor doesn't provide all of them. She signed an affidavit saying this is everything, and it was false. On or about May 9th, then Cantrell abused her position to obtain non-public information about the person who busted them, filed a police report about the person who took the photos. Then she used, the mayor, the non-public information to get a restraining order. Then she appeared under oath before a grand jury, affirmed she signed the affidavit, and lied again, saying again, yeah, I produced all the documents to the best of my knowledge. No, you didn't. You deleted them. Between at least this date and this date, they caused interstate wire communications in the form of payments from the city of New Orleans and the other police department to Vappy to accounts under his control, all for their own personal gain. Wire fraud counts 2 through 13, a bunch of other ones. So we just finished with the overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. Okay. And remember, Epstein and Maxwell were also part of a conspiracy, and we didn't see any of this depth, right, in anything that happened there. Like all these financial transactions and stuff. You think there were any financial transactions with Epstein and Maxwell? Maybe they could find? Maybe. I don't know. But they didn't really care. Here we got wire fraud counts. Now, beginning at a time unknown, they devised a scheme to submit false time cards, false travel expenses, and more. Here's a bunch of them. Look at this list here. Payment, $443, $335, $409 over here. The list just goes on. $378 here, $335, $237, $335, $420 for all, like each one of those days, adding up to thousands of dollars. They got him just listing this, boom, all assembled there for a big fat grand total. And here's even more of the conspiracy. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, a whole separate provision and criminal charge. What did they do? Well, they lied to federal law enforcement. They submitted under oath false affidavits. They created false evidence. Wow. They created even screenshots from her cell phone that falsely claimed the misrepresentations in her affidavit. Wild. She should have gone to a criminal CLE, a criminal environmental law conference, not the environmental law. She could have learned about this. Withholding from production material, responsive, and all is bad. Now, the FBI was investigating, and on or about March 30th, Vappy conducted an online search. And he said, what was Whitney Houston's character name in The Bodyguard? Anybody know? Movie trivia. What was the Whitney Houston's character name in The Bodyguard? On or about June 11th, Cantrell sent Vappy the following images via WhatsApp. LaToya Cantrell. Hey, did you tell blank you put a ring on it? Picture of the left hand, I guess with a ring. And then on the right hand, here's two with another ring on the right hand. I guess she's getting a pedicure. See that right there? At, what is that? 10 o'clock at night, maybe? A little interesting. Now, The Bodyguard, here's our answer, was a 1992 romantic drama, starring Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston, in which a male bodyguard, played by Costner, was hired to protect a female celebrity, played by Houston. After initial attempts to remain professional, they just couldn't help themselves, and they just had to have each other in a romantic relationship during which the bodyguard attempted to break off the affair because it compromises his ability to protect the celebrity. And I never saw it. On or about June, so that's what he thought they were doing. He's like, gosh, we're like Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner. Yeah, baby. On or about June, Vappy sent Cantrell the following message taken from the apartment. I'm writing in the book as I partake in an old fashioned. Wow, how sophisticated. He's writing things down in a notebook. He's journaling. Hey, baby, just want to show you I'm journaling so you know how I'm sophisticated in doing something. Vappy and Cantrell exchanged text messages. She's like, you know how to write? That's awesome. And images in WhatsApp, and sent a bunch of other messages, each using terms of endearment and expressing their love and their attraction and their affection for each other. And they repeatedly said they loved each other, and they discussed their physical and intimate relationship. And that's great. They can do all of those things without committing felony theft and fraud. On or about July 14th, the Eastern District of Louisiana, they did willfully make false statements. They lied to the FBI. They said they never had a physical relationship. They said they never even kissed. They never said, we love you. These statements were all false. They all knew. They have been saying these things in a romantic relationship, kissing each other all over the place, saying, I love you constantly. So you lied. Now here's another count, which is actually obstruction of justice, not a conspiracy. You guys actually did it. The July 18th subpoena that was issued by the grand jury ordered you to produce these materials. You see this word right here? All. See that? All. However, they didn't give us anything. The production of records did not include messages, pictures, or audio files that she exchanged, or any handwritten communications, or any personal communications at all. And so that's obstruction. We had a valid order, and she corruptly concealed evidence. And we got it. We went into her Apple iCloud account, and we got more than 50 pictures that she had exchanged with Vappy, including screenshots of correspondence and things of value that Vappy gave Cantrell. And I don't know if they would tell us what kind of pictures those were, like if those were like nudies. I think that they would say that, so they're probably not, but you never know. The allegation are hereby re-alleged and incorporated. In another count, false declarations, lying to the grand jury. Here's what they lied about. The nature of the relationship, what extent Vappy was claiming to be on duty, the location when he said he was on duty, what he was doing with personal activities, how she influenced his inclusion in the trips, whether she brought him out of state, and whether they were co-conspirators. And in response to the subpoena, she also signed it lying under oath. She says, I confirm that my cell phone deletes everything sent within 30 days. It affects everybody, but I learned about this. Here's a screenshot from my settings that's been produced and all that's wrong, right? Like she just turned that on. The documents have been produced, all responsive. I've given you everything I have. It's totally honest and true. Wrong. She lied. She appeared under oath, and the documents that were produced pursuant to a valid subpoena were fraudulent. Saying, other than the documents, she said Cantrell was unaware of the existence of any other documents. She confirmed her personal cell phone. So they came back in, they said, this is your affidavit. Do you want to say, like, you want to make a change to this affidavit or not? She's like, no, it's all true. Okay. In truth, when she swore under oath, you're under oath now, you understand? Yes, I swear. Okay, perfect. She lied again. She withheld documents. She knew she did. She had documents that were responsive to the subpoena, which she didn't disclose. She did not implement a setting at all. In fact, she applied that feature to WhatsApp in December 2022. So she started deleting it after she knew she was in trouble. Now, the setting that deleted all of those did not apply to messages that she sent before that. She deleted those on her own. And the screenshots that she produced reflected settings that were not implemented in 2021. So she lied. Now, at all times, they're reincorporating these other materials, saying, while under oath, here is what the conversation sounded like during the testimony. And to be clear, Mayor, you have undertaken an attempt to locate responsive documents, right? Such that you could produce them, that they can be produced to the government, correct? Well, actually, most were produced by staff members of the city of New Orleans that maintain those types of documents and records, so I didn't do it. Well, you're aware, however, that to the extent the subpoena covers categories of documents that are maintained on any personal, yes, devices, okay, so your staff shouldn't be managing those, or home places that presumably the city of New Orleans does not have access to, that you, according to the subpoena, are nevertheless responsible for complying with the subpoena, locating those records and producing them. You know that, right? Well, personal information that was requested was provided. Okay. And Mayor, as you sit here now, you're not aware of any additional material that's responsive to this subpoena in your custody, in your control or possession that you have not produced. Is that correct? It's my understanding, says the mayor, lying, that the full complements of the productions were provided and also acknowledged. Okay. So just to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying, there are no other records that, other than those that you've produced, you're not aware of any additional records in your possession, custody, or control that are responsive to this document. Mayor, I'm not aware of any other additional records that have not been provided or produced. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and in fact, to memorialize that, And she, like, this prosecutor knows she's lying. She's like, well, my file, I've got a bunch of other things. Okay, so to memorialize that and to memorialize the completeness of your production, you completed and signed at least an affidavit. Is that correct? There is an affidavit I did sign. Okay, and so if I can approach you again, I'll put one up on the screen. Do you recognize a copy of this affidavit you signed? Yeah, that's my signature. Like, they got her dead to rights twice now. Okay, and is that the affidavit? Feel free to take as much time as you would like to review it. That's the one you signed. Yes, to my knowledge, this is it. I mean, I signed it. And presumably you reviewed it before signing it, right? And you know that it represents this is a full and complete and thorough, full. Let me just go ahead and read it, okay? Just to be clear, like, you can change your story and get out of this right now if you want to be honest, but you're not. It says, paragraph 4, it says, you said this, I, LaToya Cantrell, the mayor, conducted and or directed others on my behalf to complete a thorough search of all areas within my direct or constructive possession where the records concerning the above mentioned entities might be found. Do you see that? Yes, sir. And then it goes on to say, okay, all responsive records with some Bates number, some identification marks provided to the government, correct? All, right? That's correct. And it was a response from the government said that the information was accepted. So we thought that you guys accepted it. Okay. And then going on to say, you say in your affidavit, it says, to my knowledge, no documents have been withheld. Is that right? To my knowledge. Lie, busted. So then the Eastern District now knows that she lied under oath. She knowingly made the false declarations. She said, I produced everything. No, you didn't. She says, I'm not aware of anything else that exists. Yes, you are. She's got knowledge. She says, no responsive documents have been withheld. Yes, they were. In fact, she knew that she did not produce all the records on her personal devices. She was aware of additional records that had been withheld, and she was also aware of responsive documents that have been withheld. And so, as a result, these two shall forfeit any property, real or personal, which constitute or is derived or traceable back to these people. And so go seize their bank accounts and more. We want a money judgment for all the stolen money and forfeiture of any property that they purchase with it, signed by these U.S. attorneys, Jordan Ginsburg and Nicholas D. Moses, out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Nice job, fellas. So the mayor busted, and man, you can see the thoroughness of this grand jury proceeding. She's totally screwed because she lied, right? In addition to the original crimes of stealing and conspiring to obstruct justice and all those things, as bad as those are, when you then lie to the police, you just make their job so much easier because in this case, they knew and they just brought her in, swore her in. They must have been laughing their butts off the whole time. Those prosecutors, like, I can't believe she's doing this right now. And it sounds like she didn't hire a defense attorney or anything. She just got a grand jury subpoena. She walked in there like, I'm the mayor. What are you going to do about it? Well, she's indicted. That's what they did about it. So we'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Another corrupt politician busted, probably on the phone with Fannie Willis, getting some advice. All right. And now, my friends, if you're just joining us, it's time to hear from you. But before we do, quick recap on what we talked about. We had all of the Putin latest and got to see them come out live. That was an awesome experience. Thank you for sitting through that with us and going through history in the making. We saw all of it. They're still out on the cables doing some post-analysis a little bit. Here's what it looks like on the cables, just so you can see what's percolating out there. We got Jake Tapper's out there. We got Brian on Fox. And so that's happening. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more reaction. But we had some great clips. If you missed it, hit the rewind button so you can see the airplane bombers flying overhead in awesome fashion. We then turned our attention over to Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who just got reversed by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals in a big victory for the Trump DOJ. Shout out to Pam Bondi and the crew for delivering that one. And then we wrapped up with a new indictment of this mayor of New Orleans who was sleeping with her security staff, paying him a bunch of money, traveling to Napa Valley. And now she has been indicted. Multiple counts along with her lover. They're busted for felonies. And we'll keep our eye on this one. But my friends, now it's time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting our channel with your donos and your subscribe button hits. We appreciate that. And thanks for being here. We got a couple of donos. What's going on? Okay, we got Happy Friday in the house. Look at that. What a great GIF. Look at that. Flashing red, baby. Man, it was a wild scene. Thank you for that. Thank you, Donut and John, for clipping for us this afternoon. Mizzy M. Awesome video of Trump and Putin. Oh, is that what they were looking for over there? Oh, Mizzy M. Awesome video of Trump and Putin. Yeah, the one that was shared from the... What did I do with that one? This one. One more time. Just put some volume up on this. Don't freeze out on us. Very cool and amazing. Shout out to the pilots who made that happen. So good updates over there. Thank you, Mizzy M. Bucky's is Rome is sharing this one. Zelensky came after the fact. Was that Zelensky up there after the bombers? Zelensky came by. All right, Zelensky. KDMG, what's up? Welcome aboard, KDMG. Members, we're going to have a great Saturday members only stream tomorrow. Hopefully you become a member and join us. KDMG, I hope we see you tomorrow. Thanks for signing up. Bruce Koritz. Trump brought Emily Summer to spit on Putin. She was the one who spit on Ed Martin. She's good at spitting. I mean, she pled guilty to that, it sounds like, yesterday. Haven't seen that official yet, but that was the story. Good to see you, Bruce. Bruce Koretz, 3 months as a membo. 1/3 of the way to a baby. Bucky's is Rome is here. Says, okay, so the Republicans' chance of holding the Senate is going to be pretty tenuous next year. Any chance that Trump people are in talks with the older Fed courts and Republican SCOTUS to get them to step down so we can get more Justice Thomases on the bench? I haven't seen anything like that, although Justice Thomas is getting a little old. So, you know, you might see a situation where he retires like before the end of Trump's term so Trump can appoint someone else. I think he's the oldest on the right at the moment, like the most senior on the right. So maybe something like that. But otherwise, it's, you know, the Senate's responsible for a lot of that, and they're pretty terrible lately. Chubby, wait, so does this mean I actually vote Trump for president? I've been starting to think I accidentally chose a activist judge by mistake. Well, they were running the country until very recently. Yeah, the Boasberg and Zenas and Howell and Berman and all of them. Not anymore, correcting the law. Rick D, what's going on? Hey, Rob, posted a video in the Watcher chat. Thank you, Rick. Says apparently a detective threw one of Fannie DAs under the bus testifying. He had informed the DA that some reports in a video were missing from the file, and the DA never told the defense. Wow. Yeah, that's sounds like a Brady violation there, and that's a big problem for that case, and it's probably misconduct from Fannie. So, yeah, she's in trouble, and we haven't seen much out of the Georgia Supreme Court, but thank you, Rick, for that one. We love some Fannie updates. Bucky's is Rome says, for everyone who thinks Ukraine has been a clown show and thinks that Israel controls the government, people have no idea how bad it's about to get when Democrats gain back power, and Ohio is a strong contender for flipping blue in the Senate the next year. Yeah, our aim is to lobby for Somalia. Ohio State Rep Ismail Mohammed urges support for Somali causes in non-English video. Yeah, no, I've seen that. I saw this other post from another great person on X. Let me pull this up. It's very apropos. Let me see if I have it saved and bookmarked and easily accessible. I think I do. Yeah, here it is. This is strange, right? And Wokeness and Bow-Tied Ranger, what's up? Said, we're not voting our way out of this one. Here's what you got. This is the city of Hamtramck. And these are the names. Adam Al-Harbi, Muhith Mahmood, Khan Hoshan, Mr. Bangladesh. For the city of council, you've got Abu A. Musa, Naeem Chuduri, Yusuf Saeed, Motahar Fadel, Abdul Malik Qassam, and Lukman Saleh in the city council and the mayor. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you got to just move in that situation. So, Bucky's is Rome. Press conference coming in. The meeting is over. We nailed it. Man, I think we got it on time. I think we got it right on time. Trino Galaxy, federal workers should not be allowed to unionize. Yeah, they're already part of the biggest union on the planet. The federal government, all the federal holidays, free healthcare, free everything. And you can never get fired. And when you do get fired, you sue because you're a civil servant. And you get to go around and say, I'm a public servant. What? You're on vacation on the beach right now. Object Class Keter, seems even DC judges see the writing on the wall. Yeah, well, and the Supreme Court, I think, has kind of calmed the kids down who were acting the fools. Chubby says, the Louisiana mayor is the same one that said she was justified using taxpayer money to upgrade herself and her protection to first class during the pandemic for her health and safety. One flight was to France for official business. Yeah, and give me a break about a New Orleans mayor needs to go, okay, a governor maybe. But nobody cares if the mayor of some city comes into their town. It's this is a diplomatic trip endeavor. You work on your city. You don't need to go to France or go to Argentina. FD man, what's up? Hey, La Toilette Cantrell, well, that's funny, is not a good looking woman. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you for that, FD man. Yes, not real attractive. Leonard, what's up? Trump accomplished more today than Brandon did in his entire administration. Yeah, and I think it's on the path to a solution. We were not on a path to a solution at all. It was just endless war constantly. How much longer could we do that? Hey, Lee Saps, thanks for being here 17 months, almost 2 full terms as a baby. Says Mama Gouveia, sorry about her knee. Thinking of her. Thank you, Lee Saps, for that. You're amazing. We appreciate that. My friends, amazing donos, thanks for supporting us. Welcome to new membos. We're going to do an after party here in just a quick second if you want to join us for a little bit longer. Membos, stick around because we're coming back. We got some comments over on X. What's going on? Mini Tika says, historic indeed. Let's end the war once and for all. Good to see you, Mini Tika. Thanks for sharing the Rumble link. Hey, here's one. Palmy No says, this is not my meme, but this is a pretty good one. Hey, Vlad, the pacifier is working. Da, but he still cries for NATO. Zelensky says, I'm going to find who made this meme, and you're going on a list. There's Zelensky. He looks cute. He looks actually kind of adorable right there. A lot less annoying. He's got a pacifier in his mouth. Oh, what's going on? So we got some other comments over here. We got Darby Shaw. What's up, Darby? Fred Pedamonte says, I know you don't have the answer, but why do you believe the New York Appeals Court is still holding the conclusion? I think it's just because it's just time. That's just how long it takes. Appeals take forever. They just take forever. It's just how New York is, just slow. That's the only reason I would say. Rachel Marone was the character Whitney Houston played. Great job, Rob. Houston did a great job. Great movie, Rob. Houston did a great job. I've never seen it. Ralph K. 15,000 texts between February and October. Someone did the math. Ralph K. did the math. 81.5 texts per day. That's a crazy number. I would go crazy if I had to send 81 texts. I would lose my friggin' mind. Okay, Hex. Oh, come on. That New Orleans mayor just needed to make sure her cat was protected. Meow. Hex! I know what you're talking about, and I don't think it's a friendly feline. I think I know what kind of cat you're talking about. All right, so hilarious. We had some new membos coming in, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Welcome, new membo friends. We'll see you in the after party here coming up in just a couple minutes. Tony Hay Munkets bringing in Mr. Trump Train. Andy 4C, what's up? Evie loves you in the house. We got Be Inquisitive is here. Amazing Disgrace. Gail Marie Queen, but coffee first. Rob Nobert in the house. Jason M. and Robert Tomlin, all gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Hey, it's the Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay. We appreciate you. Quixote Noou, what's up, Quixote? Membo for 12 months. Great to have you. That's 1 year. Happy anniversary, yes, Quixote. Very great to have you. We've seen some serious business together. August 24. It's good times. Knox Bierman. Hey, I'm a public servant as a contract defense attorney. I was just blessed with an all-female jury in a freaking sex case, and my client was wearing a dirty shirt and blowing his nose loudly through voir dire. How do I get the whole vacay never fired job? Yeah, see, Knox is actually defending the Constitution. Okay, defense attorneys are making sure we have a balanced system of justice. Otherwise, you just have prosecutors doing whatever they want. So we got to protect our civil liberties by pushing back against the government. That's what defense attorneys do. She gets an all-female jury in a sex case, which is that guy's going to prison forever, no matter what Knox does. He's like, I wasn't even in the state. That's too bad. All-female jury might get the death penalty. It's Texas. Okay, just being facetious. Little gallows humor there, Knox. I know it's not funny because it's your client. But yeah, loudly through void deer. How do I get the whole vacay never fire job? Well, I guess you got to become the mayor of New Orleans, Knox. But you would never do this. Like, you would never do what they've done. She goes around and just is thieving money. It's wild. And contract defense attorneys, too, is not a full-time government employee, right? So you just get paid for a certain volume of cases is what I would guess. Did we get some more membos from Tony Hay? Tony Hay, 10 more membos coming in. Thank you, Tony Hay, for doing this. Look who's coming in. We'll see you in just a moment. Woodworking Pastor, welcome. Woodworking is something I'd like to pretend to do one day. Hillbilly Jackal, Daniel Szynski, Lauren Wimberly, Jay Knight in the house, along with Carl Finley, Vincent Martin, Cager, Y2K Man, B Jacobs, and Globalist Juice in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Tony Hay, thank you for doing that. Mods, thank you for clipping for us. Big shout outs to Donut, John McGarvey, K Bean, Carrie B on the day, Dog Digger, Janek, and Neuro D. Our friends Jigam, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, all helping out around here. Very grateful for you and for you for being here, for being a part of our channel, being a part of our show, and being a part of what we do here. But we're going to pause for the evening and for the weekend. Members, of course, we have a Saturday stream. We'll see you tomorrow, Saturday. Oh, I think tomorrow will be 1 hour early on the Saturday stream. So 11 a.m. Eastern time. Should be 1 hour early tomorrow. So we'll have that. We'll also have a members-only after party where we will debrief for just a few minutes and see what you have to say. So come over and join us. We'll take some extra comments and some locals questions. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to join on locals, or click the join button on YouTube and we'll see you there. But my friends, it's been a beautiful week, a heck of a week. We've had a lot of new news drop and a lot of fun stuff to go through, and it's been an honor and a privilege and a treat. But we'll pause here for the weekend and we will spend time restoring our spirits, rejuvenating our soul, spending time with our family, our friends, the people that we love, getting outside, getting some fresh air, some sunshine, and some vitamin D so that when we return here on Monday, we are roaring and ready to go because we've got a lot of business to get into. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. So drop a like and don't forget to share. Bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we